Belton Johnson. Excuse me down here, because you certainly know more about them than anybody. I'd like for you to tell me about that channel, which no one seems to use anymore, that goes from across diagonally across to Buck Key. Could you tell me about that?
Well, if you want to go, you put the Timmy's Nook on the stern and head toward that point on the west side of Buck Key, and go straight over. And when you get close to the shore, then just turn left and follow the shore around. It's not very far, but it's not as deep as it once was. All these bays are becoming more shallow. Uh, and you just follow the shore around to the dock. There was a dock there and some coconut trees, and that was the Knowles property. And we hauled fruit out of there in 1914 on a 53-foot freight boat. It was shallow draft, and we'd taken advantage of the tides, but we didn't have any trouble with it coming.
Is that point approximately across from Tween Waters, or what?
About across the Tween Waters in there.
Mhm.
And you can stay on that side and go on down, right on down towards the Roosevelt Channel.
Well, now, about this up around Mrs. Weeks's and on South Seas land now, were there ever any dredged channels up there?
The only channel that I've ever known of is a channel that Tobe Bryant kicked out with launches going back and forth up along the shore there. There's come in towards the island from the channel, and there's a little white place there, and I don't know how he kicked it out. I don't know, but there is a little channel going in there, but it wasn't dredged. It was a natural channel. I don't think there's any channel ever been dredged in there anywhere. It was went into the bushes and followed along the edge of the bushes till you got up to the end, and then you went about northwest across to the other side, on the lee side of the island, the east side of the island. And you went on up through by the shell mound. There's a shell mound up in there, and you go over that, and you go on up to there was a little creek going into Tobe Bryant's bayou, but that creek has been filled up, I understand, by South Seas Company.
It has been filled,
That's what I understand. It's been filled up.
but no dredged channel around, except for someone just running their boats.
That's all.
Yes.
That's the way the channel across the flats, the mailboat Singletons, they used to run back and forth across there, and it kicked out a very good channel with the propellers.
See. All right. Well, now I'd like to get a little bit back to Buck Key, because I know you knew the Futches very well, and not many people on the island did know them all that well. They were, and I'd like to hear some part of their history, if I could, please, or what you can remember of it, and
Well,
what contact you had with them.
I have known Mr. Futch since way back about 1920. Back in there, he come over to Sanibel, and he rented a little house for me, and he worked for Mr. Brewer on a farm. And but he kept moving a lot of times. They moved a number of times, and I believe he moved from there to Sarasota, and he worked up there. And he was I would say he worked around sawmills a lot, because when the Minnesota mill was down this side of Venice, he worked down there for quite a while. I don't know where he was a wheelwright or what he did, but he seemed to know about sawmills.
Well, was he Indian?
He wasn't. His wife was part Indian, and she was a nurse in Jacksonville in her younger days, so she said. And I don't know. But, they lived on Buck Key quite a long time, and they first moved down to the Guderian place, down below the Orangewood property, and they lived there for a while, and then he got a tax deed to this property up here. And
Well, just to pinpoint these various locations on Buck Key, the Guderian place was across from Dottie Wakefield's present house.
Yeah. There's some Australian pines in there. There was a house in there, and it burned, I understand. But Then he got a tax deed to this property up here, I think about 20 acres, and he got some property, lumber, and built him a house there. And after the '44 hurricane, my garage apartment went down, and I gave him the lumber, my garage apartment, and he fixed him up a pretty nice little house over it. But she died, and he was alone. And
Well, she died over there.
yeah, she died in Buck Key house over there, and she went to Fort Myers, and he carried her to Fort Myers, and I went with T.M. Wiles in his truck, and we carried the body to Fort Myers, and the Powell funeral home wouldn't allow them to unload it until they had someone to sign a death certificate. And the doctor that had treated her agreed to sign the death certificate. So they unloaded her and they buried her, and he bought a lot for himself at the same time, and he paid cash for their funeral and everything. So a man that I had a great deal of admiration for, and as far as I know, he's one of the best friends I've ever had in my life. I was sick in '53, I guess it was, and or '54, and I thought it was necessary to go to New Orleans, and he heard that I was going to New Orleans, and he come over and offered to give me half of what he had, the money he had, to go to New Orleans, and I've never had any such an offer like that before. I don't know how much he had, but I look at it, how many people would give you half of what they had when they had no way of making it anymore. He was getting a $42 a month state pension, and I had signed his pension checks for him, and at that time, he was getting $42 a month.
Well, that is an amazing story. The the birthday party.
Oh,
that
yes.
They had over there.
They had a birthday party, and they invited quite a number of people, and she claimed she could fiddle a snake out of a hole. I believe it was a rattlesnake or something, and somebody, I believe, brought a fiddle, but she said that the snake had moved or something of the kind, but we'd never seen that. But she was quite a card, and I think people like to hear her talk.
Did she? I know you told me that story about her son and her cow. I thought that was a good.
Yes. Her son come down up at Bull Bay, up near Bull Grand, I should say, and he come down here. And he wore a black felt hat, quite a large hat, and she claimed he had the right front foot of a black rabbit in his pocket, and El Cajun root. Now I don't know what that is. I've never heard of it before. But he put a spell on our cow, and the cow died, run herself to death. And so she didn't ever want him to come back in her house again.
And did he,
as far as I know, he didn't.
Well,
I don't know that he even attended her funeral. He might have not have known about it. I didn't know about that, but she had 2 daughters and a son, and the daughters was there, but I didn't stay to the graveside funeral, because we had T.M. and I had to come home.
Well, now, you moved to Captiva in what year?
About, I believe it was 35. I'd say the winter of 35, 36.
Did your father own a little store where the Coconut Grove is now?
Yes, he had a little.
I vaguely remember that.
He had a little place there.
I thought I remembered too that he gave haircuts. Did he, or is that?
No.
No, just a.
I used to cut some hair.
Maybe that's what.
And Joe Whiteman used to cut hair. When I first come up here, Joe would give me a haircut. I'd cut his hair.
Well, you remember then the fish boat coming down, or the ice boat?
Oh, yes. That was one of the reasons I came up here, too, because I could sell my fish right here at Captiva. When we fished at Tarpon Bay, we had to run our fish to St. James City, across Tarpon Bay and also across St. Carlos Bay.
And that ran how many times a week? What was it?
3 times a week. It left Ponte Builder on Mondays and Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and it went back Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And there was no charge to go up on the boat. The men, I'm sure, were licensed men, but they didn't have the boat fixed for passengers or anything. It was a fish boat.
But people did go back.
People did go on it, and some people went on it just for the experience.
I remember when they used to bring ice, and Jimmy Whiteman
Yeah.
would deliver
Yeah.
it down the island.
They haul the people's groceries. Everybody wanted them to haul them. They hauled our groceries, the Ponte Builder Fish Company, for many years, and they kept, you order milk or meat or anything, they keep it on ice and deliver it to you. And of course, TM or whoever was driving the truck would use to bring it to the house.
In some ways, it was much easier living down here. Got door-to-door service, really.
And then all the time I lived and got groceries out of Ponte Builder. The Ponte Builder Company never gave me a bill for hauling my groceries. I was never billed for it.
Really?
And I asked them about it, and they said no. They used to fall down and start growing again, you know, and no telling how long the stalk of cane would be, because it would grow wherever it hits the ground. It would sprout out and keep on growing.
Well, you say that there was cane growing on the island?
Up here, Joe Bryant had cane, so I've been told, and there was a fellow with the name of Lee. This is during the time that I was in the Navy. He planted some cane. It would be on the north side of the road down there about where the mayor had got their office.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe where, between there and where the Wilson lived. And he had some, I don't know what it's cane or sorghum, but he made some syrup or something. And I've always felt that that was the answer to their trouble, you know. A fellow named Barry, he was assistant lighthouse keeper, and he come up there and one night to Lee's house, and he used some terrible language. And the next day, Lee met him on the road, and he told him, he says that you're doing me an apology for the language you used before my wife and children. And he said he didn't apologize, no, so Lee slapped him. And he wanted him to get out of the car, but Barry wouldn't do it. He said, I'll go get my gun and I'll be back. And he went to the lighthouse, and he didn't have a gun, so he borrowed one from Howard Page. And he went to the lighthouse and targeted the gun. See, I would shoot Margaret Mickle and some people from St. James was over there the day he targeted the gun. And so he went back. No man George Riddle, Leon Cumber's father-in-law, was down around the schoolhouse. And Barry went on up to where the post office is. Now, Brewer lived there. Mr. Brewer sold gas. And so he went up and got some gas from Mr. Brewer. And he went back, and he heard him coming and carrying on. And so he, taking his rifle, and stepped out of the house and walked over toward the road. He said he didn't want him to come up and shoot through the house. So he walked over towards the road. Now, Mr. Riddle was down at the schoolhouse, and he heard a bullet go off. You know, he heard the shot and heard the bullet go. And so he heard the second bullet. And then he heard two from Lee shot. Lee shot, and he hit him, say, about 2 inches apart right in the chest with a rifle, 25-35 rifle. And of course he killed him. And Mr. Riddle walked on up there, and Lee hadn't been over to the car, but he was standing there. And Mr. Riddle come on up, and he said, I want you to look in that car, see what's happened. And Mr. Riddle went over, and he said, well, the man's dead. And so they arrested Lee and carried him to Fort Myers. But I think, now, Barry drank, and I wouldn't be at all surprised, but what he went over there to get some moonshine or something. And now this is my own theory, and I got no right to believe it, but why would he go to Barry's house, Lee's house at night, if it wasn't for whiskey? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think Lee probably made some of the sorghum into moonshine. And I believe probably that was the answer to the whole thing, but that never did come out, so I don't know whether that's right or not. But
That was Lee Mayer?
no, a man by the name of Lee.
Lee.
He was a wonderful carpenter. He did beautiful work. He built a boat for my oldest brother. 26-foot boat, nice work, nice workmanship. I didn't like the lines, but that doesn't say anything about a bad workmanship. But that happened in 1918, I think it was. I was in the Navy at the time. And the old man, for some reason, a fellow named Fletcher, he was a defense lawyer from Tampa, and he got him to take the case. And I heard that Lee didn't get him, but Will Barnes, the man that run the Captiva Hotel, got a hold of Fletcher to come down and take the case. Fletcher take the case, and I understood he'd taken it for $50. And so he come down and he talked to a different one. Now, Barry was a woodman of the world. Webb Shanahan belonged to it, and my oldest cousin, Jesse Adkins, belonged to it. Jesse owned the place where the Rhodes used to live down there.
Did you say Woodman of the World?
Huh?
Woodman of the World.
Woodman of the World.
It's a club?
An organization. It's a lodge. And so when Lyman Frank, he was another one that belonged to it. So when they put him on the stage, this fellow, Fletcher, he said, well, Jesse was one. He said, Jesse, he says, I've known you ever since you was that high. And he says, now I want you to tell the jury and the judge just what you know about this case. Where were you at the time this happened? And Jesse said, well, I was in Sunday school down at the church. And he said, well, just tell them you don't know anything about it. And so Jesse admitted he didn't know anything about it. And Webb Shanahan, I don't remember where he was at, and Lyman Frank, I don't remember where he was at, but he just knocked him out with a feet when it started off. He just knocked him off with a feet. And so
were they all trying to testify
they
for
were
Mr. Barry?
They were going to tell the same thing, you know, tell where Lee was standing behind the cabbage tree right up close to the road when he shot him. Well, Mr. Riddle saw where Lee was at when he heard the shots. He looked and saw right where he was standing and everything. So, and he didn't, this old man Fletcher, he didn't even take any of his defense witnesses. He cleared this man, Lee, with his own witnesses, I mean the prosecuting witnesses. And so when I wasn't here at the time, I was gone, but when the case was over, Fort Myers, it says that Sam Fletcher had on a floral tail coat and a high hat and everything. He, when he walked out of the house, Mrs. Barry says, Sam Fletcher, you're a damn dirty old son of a bitch. And he said, he doffed his hat. He said, well, lady, he said, I'm very sorry of it. He said, and walked on by.
It's hilarious.
But now,
so they let Lee.
sure.
Was it Mr. Lee or was that his first name?
J.W. Lee, I think.
J.W. Lee.
But anyway,
He went free.
Yeah. They didn't have anything against him. A man shooting at you, you know. You have
Right to shoot back.
But anyway, it was proved that Mr. Riddle, that Barry fired the first two shots. And they wasn't towards.
Mr. Riddle could probably tell by the sound
Well,
he
he shot and heard his whistle. And of course, Lee shooting, he was shooting in the other direction, and Lee's bullets hit the man. They didn't whistle, you know. They hit the man. They didn't go on all through the face. But another time, this is what I was told. A man, I don't remember who told me, somebody that lived up around Wachula or somewhere up in there. Some boys, one night they got accused of chicken stealing or something. And so this man had them arrested, put them in jail. He was going to really give them the works. And so they got a hold of this fellow, Fletcher, to defend them, these boys. And he had him to tell all about the kind of night it was. And this man said it was a moonlight night. He says that you could see, oh yes, I could see. And there was 5 people. They identified that. So when they got through testifying, Sam Fletcher said, "Now, gentlemen of the jury," he said, "I want to show you something." He said, "I want to invite your attention that on the 6th night of June, or whatever it happened to be," he says, that, "Take the almanac," and showed him. He said, "Now this was dark nights. It was new moon at that time, and there was no moonlight at all." And he just laid out, and they turned him loose. And what happened, he had put his thumb over the year of the almanac. And they didn't think to look for the year, but
Mr. Fletcher is the lawyer for me.
but he was a smart, and he was a drunkard boy. I saw him in Tampa one time. I was still in the service, and saw him. Oh, I can't think of his name. He used to run a transfer business in Fort Myers. I can't think of his name anymore, but he was there, and this man that was running the transfer business in Fort Myers, he was at the shipyard picking up nails and making more money than the laborers were making for the amount of nails he picked up, and I don't know whether he sold them for used nails or how he sold them, but that's what he was doing, picking up nails, building boats and doing stuff. And Russell was the fellow's name. He was from around Key West, and so when you take Key West and you take Russell and Pender and Curry away, you haven't got much left.
Oh, really? Those are the names?
It used to be years ago, oh man, that you could go into Key West, and if you met a man and you call him Curry, and if he didn't accept it, just say, "Mr. Pender, you had it." one of the other, Curry or Pender. And Pender's come over the Bahamas. I imagine Curry did too. But it's not that way anymore down here. I like Key West.